What is up, everybody? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. It is a Tuesday all day. What is it? August, I think, 26th, right here at the noon hour, Eastern Standard Time. We're going to jump into it. This episode coming with a bomb. I'm going to wait and hold off because I want to talk about some stuff that actually leads into it. So Jack D and Kaylee, they actually talk for 17 minutes. And when I say talk, we're going to talk about this. The phone call begins at about 2:26 a.m. on 11/13. We're going to get into that. So Jack D and Kaylee, they have a recorded 17-minute call. We're going to get into that. But first, I think there's even a bigger boom. Here we go. I told you guys about this on November 13th. Let me make it bigger for you guys. Yeah, go ahead. Hit that thumbs up. Let me know where you're from. Let me know what you think in the comment section of the video. You're going to have an opinion at some point. Make yourself known. Right here, I brought this up to you guys before, that there was a guy. He returned home, he thought around 4:30 after playing video games at his fraternity house, which he identified as blank. He said that he parked his, and that's redacted of what he drove. Okay. And he was parked directly to the east of the house, right there on that side street. And then I talked to you guys about how he took his dog out. He went back to the back area behind the house where dead ends kind of over there in Queen. And he had heard another dog barking. I think that's a typo with the 1155, remember? Now, this is report 143, and this was in with a bunch of quote-unquote miscellaneous tips, it's titled. Okay, miscellaneous tips. Nothing but the tips. He doesn't talk to this kid until February 7th of 2023. Okay? Now, here's a boom. Look at the date of this report written. August 3rd, 2023. I cannot believe this date. This was from an interview on November 18th by Detective Powell. Detective Powell on November 18th at approximately 6:23 p.m. And I underline it on purpose because you're going to see that it's only a 12-minute conversation, which he conducts with Detective Swanky via phone. Okay. Now, this person, blank, lives with his girlfriend who is a blank with blank. She went to bed early. He stayed up till about 2:30 a.m. playing video games. Hence why I brought up, just for the record, you know, fraternity guys playing video games at their frat houses, stuff like that. Now, he's playing video games and working on homework since he is an outlying blank at blank. Okay. After going to bed, he had been asleep, he thought, for approximately an hour when he was awoken by a vehicle with a loud exhaust speeding away down the street past his house. He assumed it was a white Audi that parks near his house quite frequently and has a loud aftermarket exhaust. The Audi normally parks near the cul-de-sac on the end of King Road. He believed it would have occurred between 3 and 4:30 a.m. on 11/13/2022, but was unsure since he didn't check his clock. After the vehicle traveled past his house, he believed the vehicle turned onto Taylor. Okay, so he's over here saying that I believe it's one of the houses right there, Walenta. It's like the back side of the house would be on Walenta. So he thought that this vehicle could have possibly, it drove past and that it actually then would be going east on Taylor. By the way, that the sound of the vehicle was coming from. Now, this is me. hello, November 18th, you're literally interviewing somebody that is describing the vehicle that you're questioning or looking into, as far as circling the residence, coming and going. You guys can listen to the audio yourselves. You can tell that the video picks up like a louder exhaust. But this matches your lead on your video. This matches your lead on your video. And it's somebody that he's like, hey, he assumed it was a white Audi. Now remember, the way this was written up months after the arrest of Brian Culper, 6 months. Okay, but this interview happened November 18th. Okay, and I'm over here like trying to read. Nowhere in here does it say that this interview was recorded. Is there an audio of it? Where's the follow-up to this? I mean, this is serious. I mean, this is, but nobody could follow up. I mean, you don't write a report on it, and how does anybody even know that this exists, right? So no follow-up. Was this not recorded? This interview was on November 18th of 2022, and it was not written until August 3rd, 2022. Now, how the hell would you took notes? Where's your chicken scratch? Where did you upload your notes? Who drives the Audi? Wouldn't you want to find out who drives the Audi and that parks? Is this a 2-door? Is this a 4-door? Where's the interview with the Audi driver? I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is a car that frequently parks. And so think about it. The car that goes around because it's trying to find a parking spot, then it makes a 3-point turn because it tries to park again. And if you think about it, if somebody was to park wherever they you know what, when you're coming home at X amount of time later, it's harder to find parking spots. You have to park further away and they have to walk. Well, nobody would have walked. When we walk places, we like walk across yards. Like you're going to like the direct points. Okay. But why this wasn't written in a report, why there be no follow-up, at least I haven't come across it yet. I'm still digging to see what, in fact, did they ever talk to the person that owned the white Audi and that frequently parks? Is it a 2-door? Is it a 4-door? Does it match? Is it one of the 7? Could it be fit the description of the vehicle? You would just think that this, in an investigation on November 18th, would have been very, very, I don't know, important. A car speeding away almost. I mean, isn't that what the guy's saying? In the middle of the night between 3 and 4:30. Okay. Now, there was an interview done by none other than Mike Van Leuven. Mike Van Leuven, great job. You still suck. On December 7th, this happened. You did not write your report on December 7th, buddy. You still suck. Your report was written right before March 30th, 2023, because that's when it was approved, when somebody else is like reading over your report. So here, Mike Van Leuven is going to talk to a gentleman that on December 4th, 2022, he calls up because somebody had called in this as a tip. Okay. Somebody calls in this as a tip. And so Mike Van Leuven calls this guy on December 4th, 2022, and he says that he was in Dallas, Texas on December 4th, 2022. I said, holy shit, that should bring like, Mike Van Leuven should immediately, if you're on this case, that's where Kaylee was moving. Dallas, right? Close enough. Austin, Texas, right? Not far. This guy, he's in Dallas, Texas, and would be back in Coeur d'Alene the following Tuesday when he would come in for an interview. And for all I know, maybe Van Leuven mixes up Austin and Dallas, so he just put Dallas. Anyways, The guy calls back. He says he agrees to meet on 12/6. So they meet on 12/7. And here's this interview. In this interview, it was for a two-part, he said. This was both to eliminate this person as a suspect and to do victimology. Okay. So this would have something to do with Joe Lake. So Joe Lake would be, he would be interested in this. Anyways, the guy consented to the DNA, and I gave it on over to, I transferred the swabs to Moscow Police Department. Here's me saying when did you do that? Because what I learned in the Delphi case, they would do samples and take people's DNA, like the family, Liberty German's family, numerous times, said that they were asked for their DNA. And then here we got all the way to trial, and they had to ask for their DNA right before trial because of the hair that was wrapped around Abby. And so it's just not uncommon that these swabs and these samples just disappear. Anyways, so here it was tip 5594. Okay. And he also consented to having his phone downloaded, forensically, examined. This was done while the interview was conducted. The phone number was this. A copy of this download was provided to MPD. I have scanned the contents and put it in the disk. Blah, blah, blah. Great. And then here's me. When? When did you do all this? When? Now, this name had come up in this tip 5594. The information in this tip alleged, see, we're getting some good information here. Like, what is the tip about? Why was this ever called in? This information is the tip. The alleged that blank resides in Coeur d'Alene and frequently visited Moscow, where he stays in a travel trailer. Okay. And immediately I thought of, not Molly. I immediately thought of, okay, yeah, game day weekends, home, if alumni, that's like the traveling trailer. All right. Now, whoopsies. Okay. There we go. This dude, it was called in because he was acquainted with victims Kaylee and Maddie and had pressured them to join him at his trailer, or this trailer rather, on the night before the murders because it was a football game, but they refused. The tip further alleges that the University of Idaho student blank had refused blank advances over Labor Day weekend, and that blank became violent and threw a vape at her. Okay. So I would love to know who called this tip in. Blank said that he lives in Coeur d'Alene. So think about this. Remember, who would Kaylee be talking to? Who was Kaylee talking to? Possibly in Coeur d'Alene, maybe a couple years older than her. Okay. So of the weekend, he lives in Coeur d'Alene, and he works at the blank in the blank department. Blank said that he traveled to Moscow for the November 12th, 13th weekend. He said he had traveled to Moscow for the purpose of attending the University of Idaho football game, which his friend blank played for the Vandals. So he's hanging out with athletes. Blank advised that he had traveled to the game with Blank's parents, who pulled their travel trailer for the game. Okay. This person said that he knew Kaylee and Maddie from blank. And he said that Kaylee, Maddie, they all attended. And this is the high school. I guarantee you that says Lake High School. Whatever high school they went to. Because then he says, and Xana had attended Post Falls. Okay. He related that he had several friends that were students at the University of Idaho. This person said that he talked to, the words of when you're dating somebody, I'm talking to them. Okay. So he wants to be very specific here. And he's like, listen, I had talked to her. I was, that phrase, talking. Yeah, I'm talking to so-and-so. But they had never, quote unquote, dated. And I'm saying, quote unquote. We all know what that's like when you're explaining that to people. He said Kaylee and Maddie mostly stuck to their own friend group. Blank, this dude, said that he had Snapchatted Maddie to see if they wanted to hang out. Maddie said that they were going to a Greek party. This guy said that he and his friends could not go because they were not Greek. Yeah, you and your friends are athletes. That had been a problem. Or I don't know if this person was an athlete, but I'm telling you that whoever this person is, his friends are athletes. How do I know that? Continue to read. This person said that his friend blank, first and last name redacted, lived in the blank in Moscow, and that after the game, he had hung out at the blank trailer for a while and then had gone to blank's apartment. This person said that he ended up going to an off-campus party at a house northeast of the blank apartments that he referred to as a golf party. Hell yeah. Golf parties were the best. Cheers to all the golfers out there. You know why golf parties are the best? Because golf kids, the majority of them come from a lot of money. Okay. And mommy and daddy's wallets were buying all top shelf, all parties. There was no natty kegs. Anyways. So with that said, yep, he went to the golf. It was called the golf party because, just so we're clear, because the golf players lived there. He said most of the people that were at this party were student athletes from the University of Idaho. It's exactly how it goes. Athletes have their own parties. I knew this was going to come up sometime in these interviews, that you're going to see how it's a split. Greek kids all hang out with themselves. Athletes all hang out with themselves. You're not going to find athletes at Greek parties, and you're not going to find Greek kids at athlete parties. It's just not going to happen. Blank said immediately after the game, they had hung out at Blank's parents' trailer. After that, at approximately 8 or 9, they left to go to the golf house party. Blank said he estimated 50 to 100 people were present at that party. Blank said he stayed at that party for approximately 4 hours. You're getting lit. And then went back to Blank's apartment between 1 and 2 a.m. Blank said, this guy said that Blank had a friend who was a female. This is her name. Who had an apartment near Blank. Blank said Blank and some other friends went to Blank's apartments, this girls, and hung out there. This kid said, the person he's interviewing, said that he ended up sleeping at Blank's apartment that night, the chicks. So immediately you'd want to talk to this chick after this conversation. And you'd want to talk to the parents of the trailer. And you'd want to talk to the person that he said, his friend who he was hanging out with. So this person said that a couple of the girls had shown up at Blank apartment that night. Said a couple of other girls. Okay. But he did not know their names. This person said that he never went to the house where the homicides occurred and had no additional contact with the girls that night. He said that he tried calling Maddie the next day. Blank filled out a victim background questionnaire. I scanned this in and placed it on the disc. Okay. Well, guess what? Van Leeuwen says nothing further. I'm still hunting for these interviews of people that you need to get this kid's, to cooperate all of this, right? I don't know. Is that what you think he would do? Why it's important is this kid is off supposedly in Dallas, Texas, which I'm curious. Dallas, did maybe Van Leeuwen have a typo there? Was he in Austin? I don't know, but it's interesting that the kid is from CDA, and then he happened to just be in Dallas, Texas when he calls him to say, hey, can you come in for an interview? Yeah, when I get back. He never asked him what he was doing in Dallas. I mean, I think I would have asked him questions about Dallas. Never. Moving on. Okay, now for some background history to get into. So, remember I told you guys that on November 19th, Dylan's room, I searched Blank's bedroom with FBI now. Okay. And Blank's bedroom is the Blank located in the residence during the time, blah, blah, Upon entering Blank's room, I photographed the bedroom with emphasis upon her wall hangings. So you guys see that this is Dylan's room. Okay? Dylan's room. November 19th. This is just a reminder. Now, Van Leuven interviews Jack D. He did not write up this report on 11/15. In fact, he writes this report right before March 30th, 2023. And again, Mike, you still fucking suck. Okay? And you're doing this shit on purpose. All right. So he said that this was for the purpose, okay, that he interviewed. He's the one, Mike Van Leuven was the one that handled interviewing Jack D. And I want to first of all say this, and I put this in the comment section. My name is Lana. This is my channel, and I am team Jack Decor. Jack Decor had nothing to do with this case, with the murders. Okay. I am team Jack D, and I'm also team his parents. Because as you're going to see here, I give his mom hella props when she says, we're going to get a lawyer and we're going to talk through our lawyer. Phenomenal job. Great job as a parent. Stand by her with that. That was awesome. But making it very crystal clear here that my name is Lana. This is my channel. And I am team Jack Decor, team Jack D. So do not get this twisted. The comments, the description of the video says exactly what these videos are about. And it's about unmasking and uncovering an investigation and how this investigation played out. Okay. Boom. Now, Jack D. So Mike Van Leuven, on a scale of 1 to 10, 0 on his abilities. I feel really sad that of all people that could possibly have dealt with Jack D, that it was Mike Van Leuven. He could see an orange and a banana in front of him, and he would tell you that the banana is an orange. So, we know the background history. You get to number 3. Jack advised that he was driving a blank, 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 and a blank. He said that this vehicle was owned by Kaylee's parents and that they were allowing him to drive the vehicle. So remember I told you guys yesterday, if you guys watched that video, I said I was going to show you the report where it states this. Now, we went through back a couple years ago and posted that I was just blown away when I saw that Steve Gonzalez in his name was an Elantra. And so I didn't know if that's the vehicle that Jack was driving. Don't know. It's all redacted. But the vehicle he was driving was owned by Kaylee's parents. So Jack advised that he lived at, obviously, the address with his roommates, and he listed all of his roommates. Now, this is Mike Van Leuven just saying, I noted that the location of Jack's apartment and the crime scene were near each other. Stellar job there, Mike. Amazing. Mind-blowing that you were able to ascertain that. Now, I noted that Blank and his roommates were all members of Blank's fraternity. Well, that's normally what happens there. Mike, is that the members of the same fraternities and sororities live together. Okay. I asked Jack to describe his whereabouts and events leading up to the time that the homicides occurred. Well, on Saturday, November 12th, Jack advised that he was at work at Blank between 2:30 and 10:30. He was mostly in the kitchen. Jack drove home to the duplex and went upstairs where he found his roommates and Blank. Also present was a friend who was not a roommate named. And then he went downstairs because his bedroom, Jack D's bedroom, is on the first level. Okay. So he goes downstairs and he changed into a sweatshirt, got a beer, and waited for his sober driver, who was blank a freshman, to come pick them up. So the sober driver arrived in what he thought was a black Nissan Xterra and took him. Blank, 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 and blank to the corner club. Jack said they arrived at the corner club around 11. He said the corner club was packed and that they were admitted in because his roommate, Adam, was working at the club and let them in. Jack said he got into a confrontation with the blank member named Blank because Blank had been messing with one of his friends. Blank friend, blah, 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 who was there, told Blank to lay off, and, they bought each other a shot. Hey, lay off of so-and-so. Well, it sounds to me like Jack D is freaking mature. Hey, leave so-and-so alone. Stop picking on that person. I could just see that in the frats. Like, dude, maybe you're taking it too much with the hazing. Who the fuck knows? But Jack D was like, let's do a shot. Like, let's bury the hatchet. That's pretty mature. Unless you're Ace Ventura. Or what was it? Floyd, what was his name in that movie? Let's bury the hatchet. Did a couple of Boilermakers on the house there. Yep. Charged to my friend over there. He's paying for it. So Jack said that he saw Kaylee at the club that night. It was not uncommon for Kaylee to be at the club. Jack said that he thought that Kaylee was accompanied by, and then so list of the people, who was Blank's girlfriend. Jack said he left at approximately 1. Okay. I think that's an interesting time that he would have left. But anyways, by that statement there, it would be like Jack is saying that he left before Kaylee left. Right? If he's saying he left at 1, Kaylee doesn't get to the corner or to the grub truck until what time? And it was just a couple minute walk. Anyways, Jack said that he, blank and blank and blank, were picked up from the club by Blank, who was the president of the Blank fraternity, which I have confirmed that. I read that interview. And they returned to their apartment. So he lives there. Blank said that he had consumed 2 beers, 2 shots of tequila, and 1 shot of Rumpelmann's, and a 32-ounce tub of beer. That's what they sell, I think, over there. And if he had that beer before he left, but Blank said that after returning, meaning Jack said that after returning to the apartment, he hung out with his roommates for a period of time, and he tried to throw up, but couldn't, and went to bed. You guys remember that in college? They're like, oh, I feel like I gotta throw up. Eat something that'll help you throw up. In case anybody's watching that's like 20 out there. Everybody remembers what that's like. God, a shot of Rumpelmann's, no thanks. Mixed with tequila. Oh, God. I would want to puke too. It's interesting that they didn't ask him what type of beer he drank, like they did to Jack Showalter. Like, what type of beer do you like? What do you normally drink? Is it Bud Light? Is it Miller Lite? Is it what? Whatever I can get my hands on. So then he goes on. Jack said that he woke up around 11:30 a.m. the next day. Now, this is going to be important for us putting a timeline together and who actually came and got Jack. So Jack said that blank, 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 and blank. So the way that I looked at this is a first and last name. Okay. I don't know that if then he just didn't like individually do it, and then there was like a first and last name here, and then so I'm thinking 3 people came into the apartment and talked about cops being down the street near Blank's house. Now, you're also going to find out in this interview that you would think that Jack D would have been asked questions, or maybe just Van Leeuwen was like, you can just listen to all these interviews, and I'm only going to write down a couple things. Wouldn't surprise me. But you would think that Jack D would be a great person to ask questions about. How would you normally go into the house? Were the doors normally locked? What were their patterns? Who was normally up in the house when you would be there? Who was, right? You like that? Bury the hatchet there, Birdie. What's up, my man? Good seeing you. Just wanted to pop in and say what's up. Well, I'm just saying what's up back, brother. We got to do a live. When can I come on over to the channel and pop on? Let me know. For one of your 7 p.m. daily lives. Let me know. I'm game. All right. All right. So yeah, you're not going to see any of that being reported in here. So moving on. He's like, these 3 people came over. They came into the apartment and they talked about the cops being down the street near Kaylee's house. He tried to call Kaylee on the phone, but no answer. Boom. Remember I said this back as soon as this all was coming out. I said, as long as I see, I want to know when Jack D, because if it was back in the day, it was saying that he went to sleep and all of these calls were after the fact that he was sleeping and he didn't answer. I said, well, when he woke up in the morning, let's see if he attempts to call. Let's see what's going on here. And so here he tells Van Leuven that when these 3 people come in, I'm waking up at like 11:30 and they come in and I'd call Kaylee's phone. That's like something normal that you would do. Okay. But there was no answer. So Jack said that he walked down the street where Kaylee's apartment was and saw blank, who was Ethan Chapin's blank. I'm guessing you can either say he saw Hunter Johnson or he saw one of Ethan's siblings. Okay. So again, I can't undo the black part, but you can pick and choose what name. Jack said he asked one of the officers on scene to tell him what was going on and told an officer that his ex-girlfriend lived in the house. Jack said the police put him in the back of a patrol car for about 45 minutes. Also present sitting with blank was another blank and said Jack was a good friend of Kaylee's. At some point, the University of Idaho put out a text university-wide announcing a homicide had occurred. Can you believe that? Sitting in the back of that car. I mean, I'd have to do my math there. And yeah, Jack D was still in the back of that cop car. And that's when that 1 o'clock message would have went out. I would have gotten out of that cop car and been like, what the hell is this message? Because the first one was to shelter in place. So next. At Van Leuven's request, Jack drew a sketch of Kaylee's apartment and labeled the rooms by the names of the persons he knew to be living in each room. I have attached these drawings to each supplement and will transfer them to the Moscow Police Department. I will also scan these sketches and place the scans on a disc to include the audio recordings of Jack's interviews as well as other documents. Well, that's awesome that you wanted to do that, Mike, but why didn't you record the November 18th interview? You recorded November 15th, 17th. You didn't record the 18th. And then we're going to get into it here where you then record the 20th and 21st or 21st and 22nd. But you're missing one. So I would like to know how that happened. All right. So I asked Jack if he had any idea who could have been responsible for committing these homicides. Jack advised that he had seen a video from the grub truck on Main Street the night before showing a blank member named blank, so he knew the person, right? He seemed to be following Kaylee and Maddie from the area of the grub truck before they went home. Jack also advised that he heard from somebody that a man named this person, Cole, has been acting predatory. I'm just curious if that's Mike Van Leuven's term or if Jack D really said the word predatory. That's interesting. At the Corner Club, the night before, at the Corner Club had kicked him out. So this would be talking about Friday night. unless he's saying the night before because he's, I don't know if those are Mike words or what. So I think Jack D is talking about the Saturday. I don't think he's talking about Friday, but whatever. That would be Mike's job to say, Mike Van Leuven, detective, say, okay, let's clarify this. When was this kid kicked out? Anyways, he doesn't. I asked Jack to describe what vehicles the 4 victims drove. I thought this was interesting. Why does he want Jack D to describe the vehicles that they drove? Why would that be important? Huh? What would that matter? I'd like to ask Mike Van Leuven that. I asked Jack to describe the vehicles the 4 victims drove. Okay, ready? Maddie drove a white Chevy Cruze. Kaylee drove a silver Range Rover. Ethan drove the red Jeep. And Xana drove a blue Honda Civic. Okay. Well, what about what Bethany drove? What did he say? She drove a RAV, but she just smashed it? Because she would have just smashed it not too long before this. And she smashed it the middle of October. Okay. Wouldn't he say, and Dylan doesn't have a car? Wouldn't she want to be, or these were these people's cars, and I guess I've actually never seen Dylan driving, or I've been around enough that Dylan would borrow people's cars, or Bethany had a car, she smashed it, but then she was, able to drive it. Wouldn't you want to ask something about that, or do you think that would have come up? I mean, what's his purpose to ask this question? But I thought it was really, really interesting to see that he does not say what Bethany, because I think I would have caught myself. I'd have been like, oh, okay, this person does a Bethany drives a RAV. Oh, but you know what? She smashed that, so she doesn't have that anymore. Like that, I think that would have come out of my mouth when I would be going through the list. Anyways, we took a break and left the room to speak to his mother. Would like to know how that occurred, who was concerned about Jack. Upon returning from speaking with his mother, Jack said he did not want to continue the interview without a lawyer being present. Boom! Mom Award of the Year right there. Talking to her son and saying, you're going to tell them this. We will talk to you, but we're going to do this through a lawyer. Okay? It's not because you're guilty. It's because this is what you do. This is what you do. Boom. Now, Jack returned on November 17th. Remember how I told you this is his way of doing his reports, is he's like, hey, let me just tell you that I did all of this. I, Detective Van Leuven, interviewed Jack D on several occasions beginning on November 15th. This supplemental adds the audio from those interviews into evidence. Great job, Mike. Fabulous job. Okay, so Jack returned on November 17th, accompanied by his attorney, Jed Nixon. After a brief recap of what we had discussed on November 15th, we resumed talking with Jack about the recollections of what happened on the night of the homicides. Now, those of you guys that are here, the headline of the video is Jack D and Kaylee talk for 17 minutes beginning at 2:26 a.m. This has never been talked about yet, and this is a fact that Jack D and Kaylee's phones have a continuous call beginning at 2:26 a.m. for approximately 17 minutes. Again, he reiterates the fact that they had went out to the corner club. When he got back to his apartment a little bit after 1, he said his bedroom was on the main floor. He said he hung out with his friends for about 10 to 15 minutes. Jack advised that he was drunk. I asked him to estimate on a scale of 1 out of 10 how drunk he was. And he said he would give himself an 8 out of 10. Jack advised that he had never experienced memory lapses and he never walked in his sleep and he had never acted while sleeping. Jack advised he went to bed at approximately 1:20. Jack said when he woke up the next day, he noticed that he had a number of missed calls from both Kaylee and Maddie. There was approximately 7 from Kaylee and 3 from Maddie. Jack said that he had no argument with Kaylee the night before and that there was no dispute and no one was upset about anything. I noted in looking at phone records. So again, nothing about this. Phone records, he's very specific. So Van Leuven saying, I noted that when looking at phone records, okay, versus I noted from looking at the extractions from the cell phones being downloaded. It's totally different. If you were to delete stuff, if you were, things like that, your phone records, okay, here, there's other ways to talk to people. You can't, your phone is just me calling you up or you calling me up or showing that there was a text message, but it's not going to obviously tell us what the contents is, nothing like that. But he's saying, I noted in looking at phone records, hey, Mike Van Leuven, why didn't you do the same thing with Jennifer Drake's? When you would have looked in her phone records, you would have seen that she did not call 911 from her cell phone that day, ever. And that there was no record of Kootenai Dispatch ever receiving a 911 call. Oh, Mikey. So here, let's see how Mike Van Leuven handles this. So Mike Van Leuven says, I noted in looking at phone records, it doesn't make any sense. I noted in looking at phone records, but there had been several text messages. What were you trying to write, Mike? And then you deleted it, and then you changed it. I noted in looking at phone records, but there had been several text messages the night before between Jack and Kaylee. The last text message was from Kaylee to Jack, so Kaylee to Jack at 2:15 a.m., telling him that she had his vape and that he could come by and pick it up. Now, the first thing that went through my head, and you're going to love this if you're a conspiracy theorist, okay, was was this a way to lure Jack over to the house? People are going to be out there saying that. Next. This would have been 15 minutes after getting home. She just got home at 1:56 a.m. And so 15 minutes, she texts him and says, hey, you can come get I have your vape pen. Okay. Now, I advised Jack that there appeared to be a telephone call at 2:26 a.m. between Jack and Kaylee that lasted approximately 17 minutes the night before. I don't know why he's referring to the night before. What do you mean the night before? What night before? You mean like the night of? Is it the night of Van Leuven? The fuck, Van Leuven? Jack said he did not recall the phone call and cannot explain it. Jack said maybe in his sleep he thought it was an alarm and he pushed the side button of the phone to turn the ringer off. Okay. First of all, when you go to hit, first of all, you have to, what kind of phone does Jack have? If he has an iPhone, I can talk to how the iPhones work. I don't have an Android. I've never had an Android. I've always been an iPhone person. What it sounds like here, though, if he's clicking on the side, that's what he's like, I can't, but that wouldn't explain like answering the call. I've never been able to click on the side and you answer the call, okay? But in order for this to be 17 minutes, you couldn't have clicked on the side to click it off and to send it to voicemail. Okay. Also, you would look and say, you'd find out if there was, it just says Mike Van Leeuwen doesn't do a good job, but he advised just to Jack that there had appeared to be a telephone call. He doesn't say who called who or what, okay? Now, Mike Van Leeuwen would know this, right? Because on the phone records, it's going to say incoming or outgoing. So he knows that. But he doesn't tell Jack that, okay? He just says, it, according to his written statement here, he just lets Jack know, hey, it appears to be a phone call that took place at 2:26 a.m. between you and Kaylee that lasted approximately 17 minutes the night before. And I believe that just like how we said writing like the night before on page 2, how we said that about somebody getting into it the night before, that's just Mike just not being very good. But who called who? Who called who? Well, it's unknown to this day. But it would be in the phone records. But Jack says that he doesn't remember anything. But yet, this is where I would think that there'd be something up about it, is that if you don't remember the call, you wouldn't. Why is he automatically thinking that Kaylee called him and that he didn't call Kaylee? So he's like, I wonder if that would come out. Like, I did not call her. So if she called me and there would be I don't even remember answering that. I don't remember the call. I'd be saying stuff like when I looked at my phone the next morning, I would have just saw all these missed calls. That's not what I would have only seen. I would have seen I had these missed calls, but I'm looking at my phone. It tells me that I have a 17-minute phone call with her. And then the missed calls. And this doesn't make any sense because I didn't talk to her. That's how like things, you know, and he was never not without his phone. So he had his lawyer. I'm sure that he would have talked to his lawyer about it, or maybe they didn't. I don't know. But if you're going to get a lawyer, hopefully you're talking to them prior to. But he just says that he pushed the side button. Now, regardless if you push the side button or not, let's go ahead and add 17 minutes. Okay. Okay. That would be. Now, I would want to know what. So this is how I would want. This is what I would do. I would want to know what applications, if there were any applications being run on Jack's phone between 2:26 and 2:43. I'd want to know if there was any applications being on his phone from the time he got home at 1 o'clock until the time of 2:43. I'd also want to know the same things for Kaylee. Okay. If I'd be asking questions like, well, would there be ever a reason that you guys would be like trying to fall asleep on the phone together? You know what I mean? Like, I'd want to know if Kaylee was using any other apps, was texting people. I mean, what's Kaylee doing on the other end of this phone call? Now, think about what I told you guys yesterday. If you're trying to extend somebody's life, okay, this is a great way to extend their life, to make it seem like they're alive past, you know what I mean? But here, Van Leeuwen doesn't learn anything from his 2020 case. And so 2:26 to 2:43, you'd want to see what other things are going on Kaylee's phone during that time. It'd be really, really important. Is she, you guys, we do it all the time. I'm on the phone with people and I'm texting. Like here, my phone's sitting here. It's on speakerphone. And I'm talking to somebody and I'm also texting. I'm also sending an email. I'm doing multiple other things. I'm a hell of a multitasker. I just don't recommend doing it on dates. So, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see where this heads. So there's just so many things that he could have asked, or at least the phone would be telling you. But he said maybe in his sleep he thought it was an alarm and he pushed the side button of the phone to turn off the ringer. Hey guys, that's way better than butt dialing and butt answering. Okay, that the police ate up in the Karen Reed case. At least Jack D, to me, he's trying to be like, think about it. Like, okay, if I thought it was an alarm and I'm clicking on the side, but I accidentally answered it. I mean, but then this is what's wild. Kaylee's on the other end for 17 minutes. Kaylee's on the other end of that call for 17 minutes. Because if Kaylee just hangs up the phone, it disconnects the call. Right? So just think about this. He wouldn't remember if the dog's missing and Kaylee's trying to tell him that, hey, the dog's missing. We let the dog out. Can you help us come find the dog? The dog, something about the dog. Mike Van Leuven can't jog his memory at all to ask, to see if stuff was going on. Because Mike Van Leuven, if you're a good detective, you're going to be, hey, what was going on? Okay, remember what Maddie or not Maddie, but what Bethany was talking about, the dog getting out, being lost, ran away, nothing. No, this is Mike Van Leuven. This is how he operates, which he just says, I have learned that Jack had been referred to the blank, 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 blank because one of his professors was concerned about blank, blank, blank. You guys, I hashtagged it here. I don't know where the TikToker Ashley Gilliard is, or whatever her last name is, but she needs to come and read this. Okay. And she needs to take this to her judge and tell her judge to literally shove it, because I'll tell you what, this girl talks about the fact that Jack D, okay, she mentions Jack D, she mentions a professor, okay, and this is wild, what I'm about to show you here. One of Jack D's professors was concerned about him and referred him to go speak to somebody at, get self-help type crap. You know what I'm talking about? And the blank website states that the mission of the blank blank is to provide care and concern for students, faculty, and staff who blank 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 blank. I did research and found another report through the MPD stuff, okay, where they said that Jack D did come in. Okay, so Jack D did come in. Then MPD calls up Jack D and asks him if he's like, no, I've never gone and got any type of help or anything like that. So for Van Leuven to write this, now, Van Leuven, when did you learn this? Because since you wrote your report months later, I'm talking I don't know, half of November, December, January, February, March 30th, 4 or 5.5 months later, when did you learn this? How did you learn this? Because I'm going to compare this of when the MPD actually asked Jack these questions and when somebody had come in from the concern help place, whatever this is, they had actually phoned in and called in and said, hey, we want to tell you about so-and-so's ex-boyfriend that came to us right before the murders, leading up to them. Anyways, so he says he learned all this. All this is redacted. Okay. And then Jack said that he had been missing more classes than normal and that the breakup with Kaylee had been bothering him. He talked about her going to Texas and the fact that she initiated the breakup. This is different than everything that we've been hearing. And that breaks my heart. That's so sad. Because I think that, all those country songs. What's that one? Smiling and acting like you're happy for the person when you're really, you're not. That's just what it makes me think. I mean, it's just sad. He loved Kaylee. So I asked Jack directly if he had committed these murders. He stated clearly that he did not. And I believe that he did not. 100. 100. Jack, he gave consent to give his DNA, but you would expect his DNA to be in that house. I'm just shocked that Van Leuven doesn't ask him, when's the last time you were in the house? That question just doesn't come up, Van Leuven. Because remember, Dylan said they did a deep clean. I thought I just would be asking, when's the last time you were in the house? But that doesn't come out of his mouth. Or he just doesn't write it down. It's in the audio. He also said he could give, so right here, in the order that he's giving this all, he says he also gave consent to get his cell phone to be downloaded. So that would mean that up until this point, that means all of this stuff right here about the phone, that's all coming from Kaylee's. It has nothing to do with his. They don't even have his yet. If he's writing his report how he should be. Chronological order. We learned that in first grade. Maybe third. That's why it's important to ask your kids what they do at school every day. Tell them to go in order. So right here is where he gets permission to get the DNA or to get a swab to get his DNA and then to get his phone downloaded. So I later took the DNA samples and transferred them to the custody of the Moscow Police Department. Yeah, where, when, you didn't write up a report for that? When? I took the thumb drive containing the download from blank phone and transferred that to the custody of the Moscow Police Department. When? Who did Jack D's extraction? So this would also tell you that there is no way to everything that you're doing, you're just gathering information right now. Until you actually got that extraction, went through it, is when you can begin to vet somebody's statements to you. Okay? So here, Van Leuven should just be trying to get as much information as he possibly can. Get somebody talking, get him talking about all the different topics that you would like. He was there with his lawyer. He was cooperating. Blank sign the consent form for both his DNA and the phone. I have scanned these forms and placed them on discs. I attached the original forms to the supplement. The remainder of my conversation with Jack on November 17th involved victimology related questions. Please see the audio recording for more details. Great job, Mike. Absolutely. We will double check all of your work every day. I'll actually triple check it. Because this would be a great time to tell you guys the reason I give so much shit to Mike Van Leuven. There is reason. And it has to do with the Drake Moore case. And it has to do with the fact that he made an Excel spreadsheet to type up when cars were on a surveillance camera coming and leaving from the doctor's office. And he omitted in his Excel spreadsheet, he omitted the fact that there was a car that left that was very, very important car of the last patient. He omitted the fact that that car left prior to this white truck arriving. And the reason that's really important is because the patient said when they were getting ready to leave that they were unable to leave out the front way because there was a white truck blocking the pathway to do it. Well, in order for that to be a fact, the white truck would have to be there before the patient's car would be leaving, okay? Mike Van Leuven writes up an Excel spreadsheet where he's doing surveillance, and it'd be like us watching Linda Lane. It'd be like us watching 1112, okay? And writing shit and just omitting. Take out one of the cars. Do you understand that any detective worth sugar is going to be able to see, wait, how did this patient know that a white truck would come a minute to 2 minutes later and actually park in this driveway and actually block it like it, but they already had left? How would they know that? How would they even know that that's even going to happen? Because here she is, she's saying that she left, that's her car, she leaves, this white truck doesn't come until a minute or two afterwards. And not only does it not, it comes there, but it actually goes and does exactly what this woman says that it's going to do. How would she possibly know that? But here's Mike Van Leuven. Like nothing to see here. I'll tell you how, Mike. It's because the woman didn't leave in the fucking car that she said she left in, you motherfucker, right? That's the only way that she's going to know that shit. And she went to that appointment with her goddamn brother, didn't she, Mike? And so what does that tell you? That tells you that, ooh, she didn't leave, but the vehicle left because the brother was driving, right? Possibility, huh? How would they know about a white truck, Mike? And that keeps her there because Brian Drake was shot just minutes after she says that she left in that vehicle that she never left in, right? And then when you actually do more digging, Mike, you realize that they actually went there in 2 cars. They had a Explorer as well. But he sucks at his job. And it also proves that Brian Drake's phone that was used to call his wife so that she had an alibi, and that she said, oh my God, he got shot while I was on the phone with him. Oh, were you talking to Aldora Gatchel? Because she was still there. And the eyewitness says the guy was dark-skinned, goatee, beanie on, all black, and a silver vest. What was Aldora Gatchel's brother wearing, Mike, that day? The same fucking thing. You guys are pathetic. Pathetic. Sorry, had to get it out. You're pathetic, Mike. Jennifer Drake literally rubbed one out on you. Okay, where are we in this mess? Oh, and by the way, why this could never come out is because Brian Drake and his involvement with, you know how there's that duffel bag that's in the back of this house? There was duffel bags at Drake's, he was a chiropractor. There were duffel bags in the back of Drake's office, just like how the back of this house, there was a duffel bag that was actually like a cooler. But just moments after Brian Drake was shot, a local known meth dealer is calling Brian Drake's phone 2 times back to back. Why would a local known meth dealer from Sandpoint be actually on the same cell tower as Brian Drake's cell phone and be calling a chiropractor just moments after he was shot and killed? Because I think they were trying to find a cell phone. And Mike Van Leuven said that another chiropractor was responsible for his death because they were fighting over patients. That's where his investigation led to the arrest of Dan Moore over patients. Dr. Drake made pennies. Dr. Moore was making mid 6 figures. Dr. Moore's 60-some years old. You think he's driving by and shooting through a window at a man that comes into town and has patients twice a week and who is literally having sex with other women besides his wife? Like, look at the wife, man. Unbelievable what these people do. This is how Idaho investigates, though. So that's who Mike Van Leuven is. Look it up. Brian Drake's murder, Dan Moore. Look it up. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. So this would be very significant because not just what Jack's like, I was sleeping. For me, why would Kaylee be on the phone for 17 minutes? Like, Why wouldn't you just hang the phone up? Right? And then it got me thinking about Brian Drake's case. Brian Drake's case. And I said, oh my God, well, Brian Drake was on the phone with Jennifer Drake supposedly for 9 minutes and 26 seconds. And I was the one that uncovered that, holy shit, they weren't on the phone together. It wasn't Brian Drake and Jennifer Drake. It was Brian Drake's phone, absolutely. But we have an eyewitness to say the gunshots happened before that phone call is ever made. In that case, and so here in this case, I just got this information today that there's a call. And so I'd want to know, hey, Jack, who has, well, if somebody was to call you, there would just need to be somebody there to actually answer the phone. You know, you don't need to press in someone's passcode to answer the call. Okay. And so if you answered the call, but Jack says he can't explain this phone call. And they weren't talking. And yet Kaylee would just stay on the phone for 17 minutes, not talking to anybody, and she wouldn't just like hang up, because then what ends up happening is obviously after this phone call, which I put it here, would have been to 2:43. Then you get the phone calls that were starting to begin, which were the supposed 6 and 3 unanswered, 3 from Maddie's phone and 6 from Kaylee's phone. And then the infamous, so that would have been, my question is that between 2:43, whoopsies. Okay. Because then that's the last of Kaylee's, but then 2:53, Maddie Mogan is to Bethany Funks. And we learned that from Ann Taylor. Okay. And it's like for two minutes. And I said, wow, what this is making it seem like to everybody would be that these people have to be alive. But regardless, just go with the facts. And the fact is that there's 17-minute call between this time period, right? And then now between this time period and this time period, there's going to be 10 or at least 9, 6 and 3 that are unanswered calls. And then after that happens, then at 2:53, Maddie's phone calls Bethany's phone. And what makes sense about all of this is that this would all be related to Murphy. And that would be like the logical explanation for this. Okay, is that this has to do, and so here Bethany immediately says, right, that Maddie came down to my room and was asking if I had Murphy. So start thinking about this, right? People want to know why the dog, where was the dog during all of this? Who got the dog out of there? Who got the dog out of there? Dylan hears dog barking and it seems like it was moving away, right? Bethany tells Maddie supposedly, right? Because this is what Bethany says, that she had asked if I had Murphy, and I said no, and that Bethany just went to sleep. I can't ever imagine not helping find my roommate's dog that just got out. I mean, that's missing. But this would put a big problem here with like, it seems like that the dog's missing, right? But Dylan, and in any of her interviews, the cops don't inquire about this. There's no, hey, let's go back to like this whole dog missing thing. Did you find out that the dog, like, did they find the dog? Hey, Jack, did on any of the messages or text messages did Kaylee mention or Maddie mention to you that the dog's missing? Because remember, Jack said that it's not unusual for Kaylee to call me repeatedly like that, but Maddie would never call me. So why is Maddie calling me? Which would make all of this stuff begin. That's when Dylan wants to say nothing was out of the ordinary until 4 a.m. Well, I think this is out of the ordinary. Okay. Dylan has no idea. Nothing was out of the ordinary until 4 a.m. That means Dylan's up. In which she said that she's up. Kaylee and Murphy were supposedly dancing. And when she's talking about now somebody's running back in and going up the stairs with the dog, think about this. Is somebody now returning the dog? Because the dog has actually been missing from whatever time to now about 4 a.m. Remember when the white car makes its first pass around at whatever time? What was it? One of the passes, and it's one of the first ones, this car that they're looking into, the white car. It takes a minute, possibly longer than all the other passes. Okay. Everything was fine until 4. Well, Kaylee has a 17-minute phone call that Jack D does not know, cannot explain. They were not talking. I don't know what this is. Okay. Then between 2:43 and 2:52, 9 calls, 6 from Kaylee's phone, 3 from Maddie's phone. Then, according to Kaylee's parents, there's nothing else that happens on Kaylee's phone. But Maddie, at 2:53, her phone calls Bethany, and it's like a 2-minute phone call. And Bethany told police that Maddie came down to Bethany's room and said, hey, do you have Murphy? And remember, Bethany's like, I went outside with Maddie to take Murphy out. And then I just didn't stay outside as long as they were. I came down and I went to bed. So basically, whatever's going on, Bethany wants to disassociate herself with whatever was going on. And so she's saying that she went into her room. Okay. And so an officer should have asked, well, you said that Maddie came down to your room to ask about Murphy, but what's this 2:53 call about? What'd you guys talk about for 2 minutes? Was this before or after she came down? You're not going to find, like, we need the audios because there may be stuff, obviously we've seen the body cam that people are messing things up. So we need the audios because the reports can't be trusted. Now, I asked Jack flat out, and again, this channel, myself, I am 100% Team Jack Decor. You don't like it? I don't give a fuck. Team Jack all day. Now, on November 18th, 2022, this would be the day before they go into Dylan's room to they wanted to start getting into Bethany and Dylan's room. So on November 18th, Jack consented to search of his room, bathrooms, common areas, and downstairs laundry of his apartment in Moscow. I would be looking to see if anybody from the 1122 King Road house that is not Kaylee, if any of their DNA is in that house. I'm just curious. But I said, where is this in Talbot's report? That, look at this. So the forensic scientist, so Carrie Hogan, this is why her name is in one of the lab reports. Idaho State Police Detective Jeff Talbot. I said, why isn't there a report that Jeff Talbot wrote up that he went and did this on the 18th? I can't find this, and I'm still digging though, and I will. Either I'll find it or I'll know that it doesn't exist. But Talbot needs to have a report. Carrie Hogan needs to have a report. And so they entered into his apartment at 9:17 on the 18th at night. After searching the areas Jack had consented to, we found a drop of possible blood on a wall of the entryway. A sample of this was collected. We also noticed what could have been 5 or 6 small drops or runs of blood on a kitchen wall. Samples were also collected. This search and collection of possible bullet drop samples was also documented through photographs by the forensic scientist Hogan. We left the apartment at 10:10, so they were in there for about an hour. Okay. Documents related to the consent, including the consent form and maps and pictures prepared by blank, are included on the disc. He means by Jack, because Jack did the map of the sketches he means. The original documents will be attached to this supplemental. So, did you take any of the clothing? Like, look at how vague this is. This is Mike Van Leuven, though. Mike, great job. I mean, just fucking awesome. But hey, don't worry. We have the video. We have the search was also documented by video recording. Well, hopefully they were just recording the whole time you guys were there for 50 minutes, an hour. I want to see the place before. I want to see the place during. I want to see the place after. These recordings were placed. Now, I have a question is, what about since Jack lives in that house with other people? They don't need a consent? Like, it's great that Jack says, yeah, you can go into my place. Yeah, you can go into his room. You're not coming into our house and being in this living room and being in my my bathroom. Fuck out of here. So I'm just curious, like, wouldn't they need for these common areas? So that's a question to ask the cop, if they would need to have consent from all the people that would be on the lease, not just the Jack Decor saying, yeah, you can go into the common areas. I would think that I don't know if he just has that ability to, if I live with other people, but somebody could say, yeah, if one person says it's okay, then it's okay. I don't know. So you'd want to ask somebody with that knowledge. Okay, sorry about that. Let me get some water here. My throat is killing me. Gracias. Okay, so moving on. I had additional follow-up questions with Jack on November 18th, November 21st, and November 22nd. The conversations on the 21st and 22nd, they were recorded and are on the disc. And I said, well, where's the 18th, Mike? Mike, where's the 18th? Lana, you ain't getting the 18th because I didn't record it. Mike Van Leuven, fucking stellar human right here. Oh, God, Mike. He testified in a civil trial, the damages portion, what was it, January or February of just this year, and he testified to the ME's report. That's how they handle things in Idaho. And the Moore's attorney didn't even object and just let the shit go on. Unbelievable what these people do. Like, those two people should not have their license either. I caught them in the biggest lie. I have it actually all recorded on my cameras in my home, my phone. I have them literally. I have defense attorneys on a recorded call, because I can record whatever I want in the presence of my home. There's no. And they told the Moores that they had interviewed Eldora Gatchel, that they had a report that they're going to write all up for it, and they sent one of their private investigators to go do this interview, and that she didn't know anything, and that she didn't even drive anymore. Would you guys know it? that girl, that woman, Eldora Gachu, who was the final patient, the defense attorneys lied and they never fucking went and interviewed. There's just the Moores wanted all these people deposed. These defense attorneys didn't do anything. They got like $200,000 cash. They lied and said that they had interviewed and sent a freaking PI and have an interview, and that this guy Chuck is going to write up the report and you'll have it. How can you think that that's appropriate? Who needs I have no words. This is disgusting. This is all just disgusting. Defense attorneys lying to your clients and saying that you interviewed somebody that you didn't for a $15 million lawsuit. Unbelievable. Back over here. Jack advised that he and Kaylee were co-owners of the Golden Doodle. And guess what they did? They weren't concerned about the hair on the dog at any point in time. Never were they concerned about the hair on this dog until after the arrest of Brian Kohlberger, when they went and got the hair on the dog to see if it matched any of the hair that they found in Kohlberger's apartment. Okay. Which it didn't. But look at this. They literally call up Jack D and say, can you bring in the dog? I contacted the attorney of Jack D, Jed Nixon, and asked him to bring Murphy to the Idaho State Police office in Coeur d'Alene so I could take some samples of Murphy's hair. What? Okay, why didn't you do that? I don't know. November. They weren't concerned if Murphy had anything, maybe blood, just because Gunderson says, yeah, it looks like the dog's fine, man. There's no blood in here. Well, guess what? There was blood in Kaylee's room. Go back and watch a couple of episodes back. I show that in one of the reports. This is unbelievable. But yeah, so Jack D brings in Murphy, and here's Van Luvy. Van Luvy is just the groomer now, and he's just chopping it up. Let me just snip. Take some 3 samples here. I took the top of the head. I got the mid back, and I got from the chest area. Those are my 3 samples that were transmitted to the Moscow Police Department on January 5th. Oh, to none other than my buddy, Detective Tolson. Okay. Now, I'm going to play a little clip for you guys. And I think you're going to appreciate it. So you guys can thank me here. All right, what do you guys think so far as I'm pulling this up? What do you guys think? Ooh. What kind of questions do we have? I'm pulling this up. Oh, I got you there, Birdie, earlier. Shalom, what's up? 8 months. Woo, almost a baby. 31 months. Lana. That's awesome. Thank you there, hippie. Or happy tappy. Hippie. Happy tappy, thank you. Do me a favor. You have an opinion. 2,400 of you guys have to have an opinion. 2,500 of you guys have to have an opinion. Thumbs up the video or thumbs it down, whatever it is. Just don't be a fence rider. Pick one. I'll never tell you how to think. Think on your, think for yourself. Gifted 5 Truth and Transparency memberships. Yuri's math teacher. I've always loved that name. And $20 super sticker. Angel, thank you so much. I'm trying to see if you guys have any questions about. I think they should clip the dog's toenails as well. The paws. Best channel on YouTube. Oh, thank you. 20 months. Hell yeah. Okay. Let me get all right. I'm about to pull this up now. I just think that this is, very significant. This stuff is really, really significant to me. This right here. So we know that would have come from Kaylee's phone records. It didn't come from Jack D's cell phone. They didn't have it yet. If he actually went in chronological order, right? So, and here is. There we go. Okay, here it is. Oh, actually, it's not. Hold on. Damn. Oh boy. Here we go. This is Mike Van Leeuwen.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to hear?
Idaho State Police called Dr. Daniel Lee Moore to interview him. This is how Daniel Lee Moore showed up to the interview. Again, this was August 27, 2020, 5 months after the murder of Dr. Drake. Those pictures are from Dr. Daniel Lee Moore's cell phone the night before his interrogation on August 27, 2020. At 7 p.m., August 26, 2020, those pictures. Daniel Lee Moore was moving boxes due to the fact that he and his bride just bought their dream home. And while wheeling those boxes, they fell, hit his nose and head. Not bother to ask Daniel Lee Moore about these cuts and bruises or why he had a Band-Aid on his nose. Instead, ISP detectives Gary Tolson and Michael Van Leeuwen interrogated Daniel Lee Moore while he was under the influence of prescription medication. Yes, Soma, Xanax, and oxycodone. He had a grade 3 concussion. Here is how ISP secured a false confession and violated Dr. Daniel Lee Moore's rights. All right, this is Gary Tolson. Okay, so right here, this is Gary Tolson, and that's Mike Van Leeuwen in the blue.
Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen, I'm Detective Gary Tolson. Okay, I'm a senior detective to the Idaho State Police. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's 2:49, August 27th, 2020. This is Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen. I've got Detective Tolson with me, and we're here interviewing Dr. Dan Moore regarding the homicide of Dr. Brian Drake. So, Mr. Moore, I've talked to you before, and we talked about the gas leak at your building. Yep. I found it incredibly curious that you have two chiropractors within such proximity to each other, both suffer such traumatic events.
Okay, so let me give you a little backstory here. Brian Drake was shot and murdered and killed on what was it, March, I don't know, 12th, 2020. What he's referring to here, there was a gas leak in Dr. Moore's building that he owned for his chiropractic company practice. There was a gas leak on Sunday after the murders, and Mike Van Leeuwen believed that Dr. Moore was so distraught and taken over with guilt, grief of he cannot believe that he shot and killed Dr. Drake, that he then tried to kill himself from a natural gas leak. What? Here, this is the logic being employed by the brains at Idaho State Police.
Such close time, right? And I wondered if maybe someone had something out for chiropractors in the area. And then I thought, well, maybe you're responsible for the good doctor's death, and you maybe meant to scare him, but didn't mean to shoot him, and you felt so bad about it that you attempted to commit suicide. No, sorry. Okay. So you brought in a gun today for us to take a look at? Yes. Okay. You said that the night that happened that you were at your friend Nick's house.
Right.
Were you with him up until you said that you were there when the call came in?
Yeah.
But you also said that you left and you'd gone to your office because you were sick.
Yeah, I had diarrhea.
And in listening to our interview before, it's unclear to me whether or not that time period was before or after the call came in when the shooting happened.
This is 6 months
Because
later.
Nick says he thought it was that he's absolutely certain that you didn't leave until after the call came in.
Right.
Is that your recollection?
Yeah.
So you said you got to his house about when?
I mean, it's been so long, I don't even remember.
Okay, he said a little after 6.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
I go there almost every night. So we just have dinner, usually watch some TV, and
Okay.
that's the end of it.
Who'd you go there with?
Just myself.
Just yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, how'd you get there?
Like vehicle.
What vehicle?
I think my truck.
What kind of truck do you have?
A Toyota.
Okay, what color is your Toyota?
White.
All right, so you think you went there in your white Toyota
I believe so.
by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point the call came in that there'd been this shooting.
Mm-hmm.
You were sick.
Yep.
Went to your office, used the bathroom.
Yep.
Came back to his house.
I don't know if I came back to his house because he was leaving. Maybe that was what happened.
You said before something about getting some Imodium or some Motrin or something like that.
Oh, he gave me some Imodium before I left. That's right.
Okay.
And then I called my wife on the way home and said I wasn't feeling good. I was going to bed.
When you left his house to go to your office,
Mm-hmm.
This is for you to see. Okay, this is a murder that happened literally a year and a half before the homicides and King Road. Okay, this is Detective Van Leuven and this is Detective Gary Tolson. Ann Taylor wanted Detective Gary Tolson's training records. He's the guy that's bald. Detective Van Leuven is the guy in the blue. He is the same guy that interviewed Jack Decor. He is the same person that interviewed multiple people in the Idaho4 case. Okay. He is the same person that interviewed Eric Grower, whatever his name is. And when Eric Grower says, yeah, I was in the bathroom at the public bathrooms over there at Fountain Square, whatever it's called. And there was a guy that came out, tall, skinny, tatted up, and he was sharpening knives or a knife. Nothing further. Please watch how they think and operate. And these are the people that are supposed to solve crimes. This man truly thinks that this doctor here tried to commit suicide via natural gas leak. You know, when you have a gas leak. What? Why? Oh, because 5 days earlier, there was a chiropractor that was murdered. We think that you murdered him, and then we think that you got you got guilty. You felt guilty about it, and then you tried to off yourself by having a natural gas leak in your building. What? The fuck?
did you drive anywhere else?
No,
Just straight to your office?
I don't remember. I think I did. That's all I can remember.
Okay. When you went home, how did you go home?
I pulled out and the police had a roadblock on the left-hand side, so I went around and went home that way.
Here it goes.
Period.
So, how long have you owned that truck?
I'm not sure. 6 months, something like that.
Well, this happened about 5 months ago, so you say you had about a month before the homicide of Dr. Drake?
I think so, but I couldn't tell you exactly when I bought it.
You drive it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Your wife drive it?
No, just me.
Your son is in Germany?
Mhm.
Was he home on leave or anything at that time?
No,
Was he drive, so he doesn't drive your truck?
no.
I need to advise you of your Miranda rights too, just because we're in a police station. Before you're asking any questions, you must understand your rights. You have the right to remain silent. However, anything which you do say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before you're asking any questions and to have them with you during questioning. You have the right to advice in the presence of a lawyer, even if you can't afford to hire one. And if you're unable to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. If you wish to answer questions or make any statements at this time without a lawyer being present, you have the right to refuse to answer any questions and to have this interview terminated at any time. Do you understand your rights?
Sure.
Okay. Now, you need to go back and ask all those questions over again.
It's not going to change.
Okay. So, you didn't try to commit suicide.
No, sir.
You didn't shoot Brian Drake.
No, sir.
You did go over to your friend's house
Yes.
by yourself,
The coroner.
driving your white truck.
Yeah.
You don't have any idea what happened to Mr. Drake.
I don't. I mean, I've got patients that knew him, but I personally have never met him.
Okay. So,
So here, let me tell you some electronic things. So we're gonna go into this the easy way, and so we want you to understand what we understand.
Okay.
So let me tell you a little bit about electronics. These phones,
Yeah, the tracking
they're
device.
tracking devices.
Yeah.
Your truck,
Yeah.
the radio,
Yeah.
it's a tracking device.
Okay.
If it has Bluetooth in it,
Yeah.
it's seeking.
Right.
So you know what geofencing is? You ever heard of that?
Tell us
No.
about it.
Okay. That means that wherever you're going, that's bouncing off a satellite and is looking for Bluetooth, and that's connecting, and that's telling us where you're at.
Okay.
There is a lot of cell phone stuff that we can seek, which we have sought.
Go
Right.
get it.
Okay. There's also a lot of cameras up here.
Mhm.
And a lot of stuff on those cameras, we go, do we need that information or we don't need that information? So what we have discovered with this stuff is that your truck
Mhm.
is leaving Nick's house on the night of the shooting.
Okay.
It's not stopping at you. It doesn't stop at your office. In fact, it drives down towards Dr. Drake's office. And in fact, circles Dr. Drake's office several times. Then your truck goes back and parks right in front of your office, all on camera.
Okay.
Then we have a figure walking from the backside of your office down towards Drake's.
Okay.
Then we have gunfire, and we have a witness hear that gunfire,
Yeah.
and we have a figure walking, then running back towards your office.
Right.
And we have your car being unlocked,
Okay.
driven back to Mix.
Okay.
Who drove that truck?
I'm the only one that drives it.
What do you think we think of that?
Well, like I said, it's hard for me to know if I went to Mix and he went there or whatever, but I'm telling you that I was at his house.
Well, we got that.
Yeah.
Were you driving your truck down to your office?
Yeah, listen.
Okay. So here, Mike Van Leeuwen cuts him off, cuts Gary Tolson off here. But what he's saying here is a couple minutes back, as you guys heard, is yeah, it already came over because his alibi. He has a fucking alibi. He's with the coroner. Okay. The coroner has all the damn, radios going off and shit. Well, somebody calls in shots at South Hill. Okay. And the coroner's like, yeah, all the radios are going off. Dan didn't leave my house until after that. So he was there the whole time. And then we get this, comes over my pagers and stuff like that. And Dan's like, oh, that's a different type of a call. What's that mean? So we were talking about it on that night because it was obviously a different type of a call. And so Mike Van Leeuwen, okay, so you're sure, like, And the coroner's like, yeah, I get it. I guess I'm basically his alibi then, because yeah, he was with me and he did not leave this house until after that went over on the radios. Okay. Now, this would have been after Mike Van Leuven knows that there is eyewitnesses as well as multiple cameras that catch the time frames of stuff, and it strongly suggests that the shooting was earlier than what they are saying. Like strongly suggests, and the only thing that's saying the shooting was at the time that he's going with is because we have a phone call with he's on the phone with his wife. He gets shot on the phone with his wife. Listen to this. This correlates with everything that I'm talking about, what we just talked about in the Idaho4 case, when they're on the phone for 17 minutes. Kaylee and Jack D, supposedly. And Jack D's like, I don't even recall. 17-minute phone call at 2:26 a.m. So listen to how he handles this. He cuts off Gary.
Were you driving your truck down to your office?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen. We don't know why you did it.
Did what?
Shot and killed Dr. Drake.
I did not kill
There's
Dr. Drake.
There's two reasons why this might have happened. One is either you're a cold-blooded killer who went out and murdered this guy because you wanted to take it away from his wife and his kids. The other reason is because you had some beef against him. Maybe it was professional, maybe it was something else we're not even aware of, and you were trying to scare him because you didn't want him in town. And you fired a round through his office window, not thinking that you were going to kill him. And then when you found out you did, you were so aggrieved about it, you tried to take your own life.
That's not what happened.
You tell me what happened. All we know is I have enough evidence right now to take this to a jury and convict you for murder.
Well,
plain and simple. So why you did what you did is super important, because you're either looking at a first-degree premeditated murder charge, because we can prove premeditation by the driving past his window, the pausing, circling twice. We can prove premeditation. The question is it premeditated murder or is it a premeditated shooting through a window? Because those are two different things. This is your opportunity to pick which one it is.
well, I didn't kill him. So
You fired the shell, the round that killed him. Whether you intended to kill him or not is a different question.
I just showed you the gun. Is that gun?
That's not the gun. That's not the gun. It was a revolver that you used. We're currently doing search warrants at both your residences, at your chiropractic office, and your gun shop over in Montana.
Okay.
As well as your vehicle. Your Toyota is being towed down to Coeur d'Alene. Your other vehicles are going to be searched. In talking with the prosecutor and in showing him what we've got, we all feel confident that presented to a jury would convict you for this. So you've got to ask yourself, how do I want this to go? Do I want this to be seen as an intentional premeditated homicide? Or do I want this to be seen as what it was, which was an accident? But only you can answer that question.
I didn't even know Dr. Drake.
I don't know if you did or not. All I know is you shot him. I don't know why. I think I know why, but I don't.
I didn't shoot him, and I didn't do it.
How do we see your truck driving around his office, driving through the alleyway?
Let me help you out there, Gare Bear. It's very simple, guys. What a vehicle would be doing or not doing after when the actual crime occurred is irrelevant, Gary. Okay, so now compare yourselves to the Idaho4 case and everything that we're seeing on Linda Lane and you're seeing on 1112. Okay, if the crime occurs before this truck is driving around, or in the instance of Idaho4, before these cars are coming around, those cars are irrelevant. Okay, they're going off of the time of the crime wrong. But they're basing the time of the crime off of the wife of Brian Drake, who's saying, I was on the phone with him. I'm talking to him. And next thing I know, he's like, ouch. Oh my God. Oh my God. Something just hit me. Somebody just shot me through the window. And then the call went black. And he just dies. And it was a shot through his back, upper back, left, whatever. And then she's like, and then I'm like, Brian. And then I hang up because my thought process is that I have to hang up and I have to call to get help. So then I hang up. I'm at home. I'm never going to forget this. This is what she's saying to the police. I'm at my house in Hayden, and my daughter's there with me, and I'm in the living room. And then the next time she talks to the press, she says she's in her bedroom. She's a wild one. And then I hang up and I call 911. But what do you think Lana went and did? Lana went and got every single phone call that was made in a FOIA request to 911 on this day, March 12, 2020. Guess what Lana found? 0 911 calls placed from that woman's cell phone. 0 911 calls placed out of Kootenai County at that time frame. Then I said, well, she called 911, but she was definitely not in Hayden. Because then she tells the police, well, I called, and then Van Leeuwen's like, well, what time did you call? Look at your phone. She's like, it's not on here. And he's like, what do you mean your phone call's not on there? Would you care if we download your phone? Yeah, no, you can go ahead. Then Lana calls where Sandpoint is, which is between Bonners Ferry and Hayden, which is Coeur d'Alene. And I get all of their FOIAs for the 911 calls. And she's like, yeah, actually, I took that call. And I was like, was it transferred? And she's like, no, it was not transferred. It was on the cell tower that services the Walmart over here. I said, what? I said, I'm going to need. And so I got the radios. I got this. I give it all to Dan Moore. Gets better. Check this out.
Between his office and the coffee shop.
That's the thing, in the coffee shop.
Let me show you this.
Watch this.
Each one of these lines represent a camera. This is the business.
He's showing Dan Moore right now an Excel spreadsheet. Each one of these lines he's talking about, that's like an Excel spreadsheet, and it lists the camera, okay? And it has the actual time, and then it has the time that they changed that camera was off, and so we changed it, and this is actually the time. But this is what the camera reads, but this is the actual time. Do you want to know that they did not get any of those videos authenticated, and they would be inadmissible if this was to ever go to trial? They needed to get Dan Moore in a civil case to try to stipulate that those camera timestamps were right. I said, you wouldn't stipulate to anything. Go get your people and go get those certificates that those times that they want to change these clocks to are right. Because the body worn cameras, they say that this crime happened an hour earlier. Now remember, daylight saving time happened in March. And I said, go find a case that happened between daylight savings time and March 12th to see if the body cams, in fact, had already been changed or not. Go find an issue where they would have used the body cams between the day of March 6th to March 12th. I single-handedly solved the murder of Brian Drake. And I was doing that while the Idaho4 case was going to trial. And while I've been reporting on my channel everything to do with the Idaho4 case, I did this case simultaneously because it mattered, because the same fucking people that investigated the Idaho4 case did this case. And it's that bad. They are not good at their jobs. In fact, one could potentially say that there's corruption here, because nobody could possibly miss. And what he's about to tell this man right here is a lie. He did an Excel spreadsheet and took all the vehicles coming and going Well, how the hell do you possibly miss the fact that the white truck arrives after your star witness is saying that she couldn't leave because a white truck was parked there? She could never have seen that. Because the white truck comes after your little star witness, your little Eldora Gatchels of the world. And then I already blew up your Jennifer Drake call. She didn't use her cell phone to call 911. And she definitely didn't use it to call when she was in Hayden because it's not on and it was never transferred. And this is a wife that got over $1 million in a check. She called life insurance 13 times after his body is laying on the floor. She called it before his body was scraped off the floor. Her husband's body was still laying on the floor. The wife got $1 million. And she got $1 million life insurance check April 1st. This man was shot and killed on March 12th. That's a very quick time to get your $1 million, wouldn't you think? She called a dozen times. Now listen to him talk about this spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, it is all lies. It's fabricated. I can prove it. And that's why you needed to interview Eldora Gatchel, because she lied. Eldora Gatchel had been a patient of Brian Drake's for a long time. Eldora Gatchel and Jennifer Drake are friends. Eldora Gatchel and Jennifer Drake know exactly what the fuck happened on March 12th, 2020. And this is how you extend somebody's life and make it seem like they're alive longer. And there's one person that ends up saving Dan Moore's life here in the end, if this should ever go to trial. And it would be the fact that Brian Drake was killed a lot earlier than what they're saying. And the whole point of the matter is that Eldora Gatchel, Brian Drake did not have a password on his phone. And so Eldora Gatchel could have made that phone call, okay, and called, and then boom, you have now a phone call happening between Jennifer Drake's phone and Brian Drake's phone, right? But Brian Drake's already dead, but they're having that phone call. And so that phone call is making it seem like Brian Drake's alive. And who's making it seem like Brian Drake's alive? Because Jennifer she says, I was on the phone with my husband for like 9 minutes and 26 seconds. Are you talking to a dead man? Or are you talking to Eldora? Who are you talking to? Because the two eyewitnesses in the timestamps of the camera show that the gunshot was before that phone call even originated. And so you have to put all of this stuff together, but these people should have known this. And this is how Idaho operates.
That the cameras came from. These are the channels, because each business had multiple cameras. This is the time step on the camera. This is the actual time which we can establish by common things being seen. And this is a description of what we see. We see you getting to Moore's house. We see you spend about an hour and 10 minutes at his house. We then see you leave. We see you go down Hill Street Alley. Get a map out here, sorry.
Why don't you just show them the video? Look at this.
You come out of his house, you come down Hill Street Alley, you turn here, you come down here, you turn in behind the church, you circle around the church, you then drive up here, you pause it before turning on 95, we think because you're looking back into this parking lot. You're coming back slowly up 95. You turn into here, you come back around again, you go back here again, back around again, you're clearly visible in the cameras. You can clearly see you. You come back in here, you turn then between here, you turn between these two buildings, and you stop right here. And that is
7:17, 7:26.
That's at 7:17:52. The murder happened exactly at 7:26, and we can prove that through phone records.
We can prove that through phone records. Oh, is that right, Van Leuven? You can prove when a murder happened through phone records. And how would that be, sir? Because he was talking to his wife when he was shot. And who says that? That's not proof of anything. That's the testimony that you would one day secure from the wife saying that, correct? Because that's what you got in interviews, right? Listen to him. You do this at 7:17. supposedly, right? This, and we got you doing this at 7:17. And then the murder was at 7:26. And we can prove that through phone records. What can you prove through phone records? When the shot was? How? Listen to what he says. This blew my motherfucking tits off the wall.
Because he was on the phone with his wife when he was shot. That's at 7:17:52. After pausing here, you then get back on Main, you drive back up, you park at your office, you can see that your lights lock your truck. You can then see as you're walking over here, there's 2 deer. What are they?
So this is what he's saying that he did. He drove around twice. This is what they say that happened in the Idaho4 case, y'all. Ready? Let Lana explain. In the Idaho4 case, they say that Brian Kohlberger drove around a bunch of times, right? Then he went and parked somewhere else, got out of his vehicle, went in and killed people, and then got back into his vehicle and left. In this case, they say that Dan Moore here drove around in his white truck 2 times. Then goes back over to where his office is, which is just a couple buildings down, parks over there, locks his truck up, and then walks over to Dr. Drake's office, walks up to Dr. Drake's side, one of the side of his windows, and just shoots a gun through the window with the blinds down, and happens to hit a fucking sniper shot that Dr. Drake was sitting at his desk in his stool like this, and he just whoop, shoots him, and he just continues on walking back, then goes back. Okay. Very similar scenarios here where somebody's circling. Okay, now I'm going to go park, walk over, and do the crime. Okay. And I was like, damn, this is really similar to what they're saying happened in this Brian Kohlberger case, you know? These white fucking cars. This one's a white truck. That one's a white car. But what's crazy is that they're determining the time of the crime based on the wife telling police officers that I was on the phone with my husband when he was shot. Is that right? But then why'd you call 911 right away? Well, I did. Oh, from the cell phone that doesn't have the call on there, right? And from the Kootenai County Dispatch that doesn't have that 911 call, right? From your being at home, right?
The deer looks back at you. The deer move on. You cross here. That's a minute and a half before the shooting. The shooting occurs. The guy across the street and his girlfriend see you. He yells at you, hey, was that you? You turn, look back at him, walk, and then run this way across here. He says, I've
interviewed Isaac Funderburg. Isaac Funderburg does not describe, he's like, Dan Moore was not the guy that I saw. The guy that I saw he was dark complected, like looked like he was like an Indian type guy. And he had like the goatee. He was dressed in all black with a beanie and, you know, the gray. I said, yeah. I said, I know that you told it to the police when they asked you to do a lineup. He's like, yeah, I told them that wasn't Moore. He's like, that's not who we ever picked out. They know all this. I also called 911 and they gave me grief because they were like, why'd you take so long to call 911? I was like, what time did 911 call go in? Didn't it go in at like 7:29? He's like, yeah. He's like, but I went to the store first and I did all that stuff first. I was like, yeah, you heard the gunshot a lot earlier, right? He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, is that right? He's like, yeah. And this is why they didn't believe me, because it clashed with Jennifer Drake's. But then there was another person that backs up because there's surveillance camera. And he's like, yeah. And then I talked to the guy that was walking up the side of the street and I ran into him about like, I don't know, 30 minutes after that, the gunshot. And I have it on camera that he runs into the guy on the street at 7:29. 30 minutes before that is at 7 o'clock. So who gives a fuck about a white truck coming at 7:17 and doing whatever the hell you're talking about? Because this man was shot just right before 7 o'clock.
Through the first, he says it's the insurance company, and then
here you go. Listen to this now, one more time. This is
that's at 7:17:52. The murder happened exactly at 7:26, and we can prove that through phone records because he was on the phone with his wife when he was shot. That's at 7:17:52. After pausing here, you then get back on Main, you drive back up, you park at your office, you can see that your lights lock your truck. You can then see as you're walking over here, there's
So he's saying he parks his truck after 7:17, like it's like 7:19, parks his truck, and now this is what he's saying. There was 2 deer that see him.
2 deer. One of the deer looks back at you. The deer move on. You cross here. That's a minute and a half before the shooting. The shooting occurs. The guy across the street and his girlfriend see you. He yells at you, "Hey, was that you?" You turn and look back at him, walk, and then run this way across here. He says first he says it's the insurance company, and then he says it's the old pediatrician's office, you know, the A-frame, which is that building right there. Then a minute later, you see your vehicle unlock, beep, beep, back up, and you drive back here, back to his house. As you're driving this way, the RP has gotten in his car and driven around here, and you can actually see him come up as your vehicle goes past. His headlights hit the side of your car.
Who's the RP?
The person across the street.
God bless Dan Moore. He's like, who? He doesn't even know what this man's talking about. He's like, who's the RP? He doesn't even know RP stands for reporting party. Yeah, the reporting party did all of that 30 minutes after the gunshots. And they said gunshots, not gunshot. They reported 2 gunshots. 2! Brian Drake only had 1 gunshot in him, right? Because the second gunshot was for the staging through the window.
The reporting party.
Okay.
My point is that based on all of this, you're sunk. There's no point denying this.
Based on all of this, you're sunk. This man investigated the murder for 6 months, and this is what he brings to this man. Okay, and he's like, you're sunk. We got you. Based on all this, what I just told you, you're sunk.
The question is why you did what you did.
I didn't do it. I mean, you can go ahead and say that that's what I did, but I didn't. I didn't know Brian Drake. I've never shot anybody.
Do you understand the importance of intent? Because it looks to me, by the nature of the shooting, that you didn't mean to kill him. I'm not even sure you meant to hit him. I think you just meant to scare him by putting a round through his window. The result of that action.
What did you think about the fact that the wife's phone call wasn't when she was in Hayden? What do you ascertain from that? What do you ascertain from the fact that the phone call is not on her phone records? What do you think about that? Why didn't you ever go and get Isaac Funderburg's phone records? The 911 caller that called in before his wife's phone call got in there. What do you ascertain about that? If she was on the phone with him, then, hers just took longer because she was being passed through the connections of, she called from 911 over in Hayden, and it went to Kootenai County, and then Kootenai County transferred her to Bonner County, and then Bonner County transferred it to Boundary County. Is that right? Well, that would mean that the Kootenai County call would be, you're going to find it in the records, right? Well, how come they're not there? How come there was no 911 call placed ever to Kootenai County from Jennifer Drake, and then there was no call ever transferred from Kootenai County up to Bonner? How come it originated in Sandpoint? And how come it's not on the cellular device that she turned into you to have extracted and downloaded? What did you ascertain from all of that within the first couple days of the murder? You fucking suck, Mike. You fucking suck.
Of yours was that he died. And because of the circling of the block, waiting for the clients to leave, they actually saw your truck when they were leaving in the alley.
Thank you! Yeah, Mikey! Woo! You are so bad! You are a liar! You guys, there's the part right there. the witnesses that actually saw your truck before they left and couldn't leave, because you're blocking the way, Eldora Gatchel and her brother, Mike, how are you even saying those words? Mike, that Eldora's pilot leaves before the white truck gets there because you watched surveillance cameras. Why did you omit that from your report, Mike? Eldora Gatchel and her brother can't see a white truck if they've already left in their vehicle, right? So how did they see and know that a white truck actually comes and does exactly what you're saying 2 minutes after they leave? How is that possible, Mike? How? What do you think? They're just, I don't know, tarot readers. And I mean, she's saying that she can't leave because the white truck's there. So she had to go a different way to leave. But there is no white truck there yet, Mike. You know this because I got the surveillance camera footage and you looked at it and you wrote up your Excel spreadsheet. Why didn't you account for that? Because that blows your fucking story up, doesn't it? Because Eldora Gatchel is Jennifer Drake's alibi. Basically, she creates it. And Jennifer Drake basically creates an alibi for Eldora Gatchel by saying that my husband called me after his last patients left. And he was standing by the window and waved to them as they left. That's what Jennifer Drake told the police. Basically saying that Eldora Gatchel and her brother left. And then Eldora is saying that, obviously, but Eldora, you slipped up. You fucking slipped a duck. And you talk about this white truck, and the only reason you know about the white truck, baby girl, is because you're still there. And your little niecey poo had that Explorer that came on through. That's right. You guys had 2 vehicles there, and Lana found it. You only know about the white truck because you are either in the white truck, okay, or you're still there, which means you were there for the phone call that took place, and you were there for the shooting.
And then going back down there on foot, first was that he died. And because of the circling of the block, waiting for the clients to leave, they actually saw your truck when they were leaving in the alley. And then going back down there on foot and then shooting him and then coming back, even if you didn't need to shoot him, if you don't explain to us your intent, then we infer your intent based on what we see, which is first-degree murder.
Okay, Mike, I have a question for you. If Isaac Funderburg identifies and says he saw a guy with all black on, right, with the dark skin, he's short, he's got the beanie on, he's got the silver vest on, right? Okay. If Eldora Gatchel leaves at 7:15 and her brother get in a car and they leave in that Pilot at 7:15, okay, that would mean that Isaac Funderburg, the eyewitness, had to have seen, right? Had to have seen this description of this person prior to getting in the vehicle and driving off, right? So it would be before 7:15, right? What time did you say the killing was? Because Isaac Funderburg says the person that he saw came up from behind the building and up and around because they're across the street, and he ran around, and this is the description he gives. So that would have been before the phone call ever originated between Brian Drake and Jennifer Drake, right? Because Isaac Funderburg he only has a small window of which to see the little Hawaiian dude, right? Because according to Eldora Gatchel and you guys, they get into the vehicle and they leave, right? Which would make it before when? Well, before the white truck ever moves. And before when? Before the fucking phone call ever took place between Brian Drake's phone and Jennifer Drake's phone, right? You got a big fucking problem on your hands, Mike.
Well, I didn't shoot him, and I'm sorry, but that's what it is. So I guess if you're going to do that, then I need to get an attorney.
Okay.
Look at Gary. Pack it up, Gare.
So what was the point of me bringing the gun down then? Just to have me come down here?
Yeah, you had to come back. We were in the middle of interviewing Mick again. Mick's house and his business and that's all being searched also.
Oh yeah, then they were going to charge the coroner with conspiracy. Anyways, wild ass shit. So this puts a whole new wrench in things. I just found out today about this phone call, 17 minutes. I think it's crazy. I think it's absolutely crazy. And there's just a lot of similarities. And it's bad. Don't think that people can't lie. People lie. If you guys want to see my coverage on that case, whew. But yeah, there it is. Mike Van Leuven. This is why I have an issue with Mike Van Leuven. He's not good at his job. I advised Jack that there appeared to be a telephone call at 2:26 a.m. between Jack and Kaylee that lasted approximately 17 minutes the night before. Jack said he did not recall this phone call and cannot explain it. Jack said maybe in his sleep he thought it was an alarm and he pushed the side button of the phone to turn the ringer off. And then you look at this timeline here, which if they get home at 1:56, 2:26, that would take up till 2:43. It's important to see what other things were going on Kaylee's phone during that time. I don't know why Kaylee would ever stay on a phone call for 17 minutes if the phone call if there's no substance there, if he accidentally answered it and he's like sleeping or whatever, you'd hang up. Then between 2:43 and 2:52, this is when 9 calls happen, not 10, so it's 9. It's 6 and 3, so 9. And those all are between 2:43 and 2:52, and there's 6 calls from Kaylee's phone to Jack D's phone, and then Maddie has her 3 that are in there, and then there's a 2:53 call from Maddie's phone to Bethany's phone for 2 minutes, and now you have to think about Dylan saying everything was fine until 4. That really always stuck out to me, that don't pay attention to anything else that was going on in this case. 4 o'clock is when that's a problem for me. Okay. Dylan shouldn't know anything about that if she was sleeping, right? But Dylan never told people that she was sleeping. That new party merged. She said that she was awake. And then at around 4 o'clock is when Kaylee decided, she was dancing and playing with Murphy in the living room. And she remembers, she heard Kaylee and Murphy going up the stairs at 4. And that she was, okay, it's time for me to go to bed since Kaylee's going to go to sleep. It's, almost 4. And then she gets into bed and she's trying to fall asleep. She doesn't say that she woke up from sleeping or anything like that, like Payne says. And then that's when she hears there's somebody here. Okay. And all these calls, the 17-minute stuff, whatever's going on here, Bethany telling us that the dog is missing, that Maddie's saying, hey, I lost the dog. Do you have the dog? It seems like the dog was taken away. Okay. And then it seems like the dog is then coming back at 4. It's very odd. At the same time, around 3:45, Molly arrives. There's people talking when Molly arrives at 3:45. Molly claims that she's lost. Molly does not leave until 4:01. Yeah. But this is a new emerging timeline, and it's very significant in my opinion. So we'll keep looking. We will keep looking. Thank you all. Thank you all. We'll make sure that we can call Dear to the witness stand. Be great. You guys all rock. Thank you so much for being here. And Angel gave out another 5 memberships. Sherry, welcome. Angel Heart, your doll. K Bass, super sticker. Thank you so much. Christopher, you've been a member for 20 months. Thank you. All right. And that'll be a wrap. Thank you so much, Beauty Wade Tarrant. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that girl from TikTok needs to talk about this. I couldn't believe it when this all came out, when I was reading this. I'll be live a little bit later. I got another portion of just an unbelievable discovery. I'm trying to keep stuff in certain areas with what they pertain to, as I'm divulging in all these different areas, and I'm going to be putting it all together in like an official, here's the timeline. So, but definitely this channel, do not get it twisted. We are Team Pro Jack D. I think that when you live with a bunch of people, you have no idea who can actually get access to your phone and who could have been on it. Why there was this 17-minute phone call. And then why would Kaylee keep it going on the opposite end? Okay. Very bizarre. Because I don't think that she would have. But then after the phone call, then there's a bunch of, like I said, of those missed calls that they just kept calling, and then Maddie's phone calls. And that all kind of surrounds about everything to do with the dog. Okay. And it was like, did somebody intercept that phone? Because they didn't want Jack D to know about the dog being out, and here I'll help you guys find the dog. Very just interesting. Like, and the only people that could talk about it are dead, minus, Dylan never mentions that she even knew that the dog was missing at all. She wants to just bypass from 2 to 4. Dylan doesn't want to talk about those hours. The Chapins think that 2 o'clock is a dark hour. And then Bethany mentions that Maddie said the dog was missing, and then Bethany's like, and I just didn't even help, and I went to bed. So until next time, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you, and see you on the flip side.